Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
So we're going to have a little conversation this morning about the Fellowship Initiative. We're glad to be here. Thank you for having us this morning. And I'm going to start with Brennan, Diontae. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourselves, where you grew up, what was school like. Just tell us a little bit about your experience.
Okay, so my name is Brendan again, just to reiterate that. But I grew up on the northwest side of Chicago, so I'm Belmont-Cragen area. That's really close to Logan Square, if you guys are familiar with the area. So I attend Pritzker College Prep. That's a Noble Street charter school. So it has a reputation for being one of the best schools. Might have my differences with them, but it's still a great school. I come from a family of 6 now. My little sister is now 3. So just great living up there. I don't know if you want to.
Well, I'm Diontae Norwood. I'm the oldest of 3 children to a single mother. I grew up on the west side of Chicago, and I go to Curie Metropolitan. It's a great school, but it's not like Pritzker. It's a public school, and it's very diverse, so I got the opportunity to meet different races and learn new cultures, and I love the school.
Excellent. So I'm going to ask you another warm-up question. Fun question. If you had a superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh, man. You want
Whoever
to take
wants to
this
go
one?
first.
Yeah, so I take transportation all the time, so I fear my superpower would definitely be flying because chasing down the CTA is not fun. So I would like to fly.
Let me see. We were asked this question a lot with the fellowship, and my answer changed every time. And so today I want to say, if I had a superpower, it would probably be knowledge. Because a lot of people fear a young man of color with knowledge. And so once we show them that we have this type of understanding, they fear us. And so I just want knowledge, you get me?
So I know the Fellowship Initiative was described in the opening remarks, but I'd like you all each to share what you thought the Fellowship Initiative was to you, what was your experience in the program, and Diontae, can we start with you?
Well, I remember Rudy coming into my school. He told me that TFI was for young men of color, and I was like, well, I'm colored, so I might as well do it, right? But when I first started TFI, I didn't know what it meant to be a young man of color. I just lived life just waking up every day and not just making a difference. Once I started TFI, I was like, this is rough. What I'm gonna do? I never been around this type of environment. I never done none of the things we done. And now that I'm a senior, I graduated TFI recently, Thursday, and I can honestly, I thank y'all. And I can honestly say that I was more excited about graduating from the fellowship than I am graduating out of high school. And the reason why I say that is because TFI taught me something that a classroom couldn't teach me. It taught me that even though you weren't dealt the good hand, you wasn't dealt the hand that you feel was great. You knew how to play your cards, and I learned how to play my cards. And if I do say so myself, I'm playing them pretty well. So is my brother.
Brendan, before you begin, can you describe what you did in the program? I think the Fellowship Initiative broadly we understand is to help young men of color, but how much time did you give? How often did we meet?
A lot.
So for
Break
me,
that
kind of didn't know what I was getting myself into, honestly. I applied, I think a day before the application closed because a mentor had told me to. And, I was glad when I got in. I was like, yeah, I'll do this. And then they told me you're meeting almost every Saturday from 8:15 to 4 o'clock. Sometimes when we have tutoring, this was one of the things we offered, it was tutoring. You have to stay until 5. So for me, I live all the way northwest, kind of really close to the north. So I was waking up at 6, 5 just to get there on time. And being a high school student, you're not really punctual. You're barely making it all the time. And then we have a dress code, so business casual is usually what we try to do. And just me, I was like, man, I'm not trying to wear a polo. I'm not trying to wear this dress-up shirt. But now I'm just like, man, I'm killing it. Okay, okay. I'm just like, okay, hyping each other up. We're like, oh, I like your suit. Where'd you get that? Talking like that. And so that was a really big commitment. It was a time commitment that was in there. But I would definitely say it was worth it because I saw the growth in me and the people around me, like Diontae. I definitely saw him grow, and I'm very proud of him.
Thank you.
So yeah,
Likewise,
so just little things like that really helped. We also do a lot of team building for the first year. So just with us, because you're getting along with other personalities that you're not really used to. So that was a big change. And then later on, we started focusing more on college. And that really made things more real for me, especially because where I'm from, not a lot of people go to college. Like, there's very few who are college graduates, especially within, like how he said, our people of color. There's very few of us. So just get our heads up on other people who have people who are paid to do like college essays and stuff like that. To get that help was really meaningful and helpful to me. So yeah.
Excellent. And I'll just elaborate a little bit more. The program was a 3-year cohort of 40 fellows, young men of color from all across the city of Chicago, and we met 3 Saturdays a month for 3 years, including summer programming. And do you want to share some of the summer programming that we did for the past 3 years?
All right, me and Rudy, we had this conversation in the car. So we was partnered with Outward Bound. I don't know if a lot of people know about it. So it's an organization, and it helps build bonds. So when we first went out there, we city boys. So when we first got out there, we saw big grass fields. And so I'm like, oh man, I'm out my element, Rudy, what you get me into? And matter of fact, man, Brenda, we was actually in the same group. And so we was sleeping outside. I love my bed. I'm gonna be honest, I love my bed.
They taught us how to set up the camps, the little tents,
learned how to set up tents, canoeing. And I remember one night, the last night we were there, our 2 group leaders, they told us, sit down, sit in a circle, and they told us to be honest with each other. And we expressed ourselves emotionally. Like, I remember, I don't know if it was Gina, she just started crying because you able to say what you want around a group of people that you love and not afraid, like you don't have to be scared to cry. Like, we all have shared tears for one another. And it's weird because before TFI, I wasn't really a people person. Like, I can honestly say that I wasn't into making new relationships. I know it's kind of weird now because you see me on stage like he's kind of funny or this and that, but it didn't start out like that. It didn't, and I owed it to TFI, Outward Bound, all the partnerships that we had with other organizations.
Yeah, so similar to what he was saying is like we have this stigma, especially for young men, particularly young men of color, that you don't show emotion, like you don't cry. And for me, that was definitely challenged a lot in TFI. So just a little bit about me, my dad was diagnosed with cancer in February, so that really broke me down. And coming up where I'm from, you don't really get that much support, so I didn't really know how to deal with those emotions. And I remember one time, so he was diagnosed on a Friday, and like he said, TFI is every Saturday. So I showed up on a Saturday, was not really talking, and then Rudy gave us the opportunity to share something. And I remember just going up there and telling everyone that, like I was heartbroken because everyone was telling me what was going on throughout the day. And I told them, my dad's diagnosed with lymphoma cancer, stage 4. And I broke down in front of everybody. It was like the first time I've ever cried, like in front of a large group of people, friends, like people who are really close to me. Like even my mom have seen me cry. And I broke down on them, and I felt so alone in that time. But once I saw one fellow step up to me, wrap their hands around me, it's like everything changed. Like it was the first time I didn't feel I was alone, and that's one of the things that the program really does help is with that brotherhood, and it really helped me.
I'm not sure if Brendan remembers this, but it wasn't just one fellow.
It was everybody. It
started with one fellow, and it became all 40 doing a group hug spontaneously in the room.
That's a big group hug.
Which was pretty miraculous. So speaking of brotherhood, how would you describe the brotherhood, and why is brotherhood important, and what role did it play in the fellowship initiative?
For me, it was honestly when I first got there, I was like, man, this is like people. I'm just gonna do me, try to get done with this program. But just like little moments like that I just explained, like really got me into like no, like he's just as invested in my future, and I should be just as invested in his. So that's when we started doing like tutoring, like. I found out that I'm really good at math, so like Diontae needed help in math. I'd be like, hey Diontae, let's try to get that math grade up. And during that hour of tutoring, that kind of went in and play, and maybe he was good at like history or English, and he helped me. So that was really just playing back of each other's like weaknesses and trying to turn them into strengths. And that brotherhood really took us a lot of time because a lot of those trips that he was talking about, like during the summer when we did that, what TFI did a really good job of is like mixing you up with people you don't really talk to in the program. So we didn't really have any cliques. And that really contributed to that brotherhood because now I know if I need something, I can reach out to any of the other 39 fellows, and I know they'll have my back right away and be like, yeah, how can I help you? So.
I got a question. Who likes to be alone? When I first joined TFI, I was like, man, I'm with 39 other dudes of color. I know it's gonna be a bunch of attitudes, a bunch of different people that wanna be something, but it was the complete opposite. Rudy took us to UOC about 3 years ago, and we started TFI.
University of Chicago.
Yeah, University of Chicago. And I remember the day one, we all got along. It wasn't everybody trying to be something they wasn't. We all understand that we were young men of color and that society was stacked against us, and we just had to make a difference. And so that was our message, and it just built our bond as brothers deeply. And I can honestly say every one of my brothers, I got 120 brothers from Los Angeles and New York, and also Chicago. I got 120 brothers that I honestly love, and I can honestly say that I have every single one of their backs, and I know they got my back along the way.
So just to talk about what he was saying about the other cities, so we actually got the chance to meet all the other fellows in the other cities on one of our trips that recently happened this summer. It was a South African trip. So we all met up there as 3 cohorts. And that's where we got to meet other fellows. So it wasn't just like me and Diontae in the same group now. Now it was me and a fellow from New York and a couple from LA. And that's where we all got to intermingle. And, you know, I thought it was gonna be rough. You know, you hear about LA, New York, you're like, oh man, they got attitude. No, that was out the door. So once we got there, literally, it was just like, hey man, how's it going? Where you from? Chicago? Okay, cool. You're like, yeah, that's my brother. You're like, yeah, like the brotherhood was so like there, like it was tangible, you can feel it. And once we mixed up with other fellows, it was the same thing. It was like if I was in their cohort since the beginning, since day one. Yeah. And that was really something that was like empowering. Because I remember seeing one of my fellow brothers from New York. He got into Cornell University and in New York, and he was on the news. And as soon as I called him, I was like, hey man, I'm proud of you. He was like, thank you, man. He started breaking down. I was like, I see you doing your thing, man. I was like, we're definitely gonna meet up when we go up there. And, you know, just little things like that that are really helpful. And some of the program coordinators too from New York send me a message, hey man, how's you doing? They found out about my dad, and they're like, you know, they're sending me stuff like, hey, I hope he's doing good and stuff like that. So little things like that, like I didn't really feel supported before the program, and I definitely felt the love and the support in the program.
Me too, yeah.
So just to elaborate on the trip to South Africa, we were able to take 120 young men of color from Chicago, Los Angeles, and New York City to travel to South Africa for 19 days. Mm-hmm. And we visited Johannesburg, Cape Town, Kruger National Park. Can you share some of the lessons that you learned from that trip, whether it be the history of South Africa and their fight against apartheid, or was it share some highlights about seeing Kruger National Park and the animals sort of roaming next to us? Any of those experiences you want to share?
Well, I want to share this one quote that we had learned when we was at the National Leadership Academy. We learned that every great leader does not have to be the person in front of the group. You can lead from the back. A leader leads with his actions. Actions speak louder than words. So you don't always have to be that person in the front telling the person what to do, but as long as they respect you and see that you want to do better, you are a leader just by doing that. So that's something that stuck with me, and I try to live by that quote. Nelson Mandela actually said that. We got the chance to visit his house. Yeah. The Apartheid Museum?
Apartheid.
Oh yeah, Apartheid, I apologize. But we went to the museum, and I want to talk about that too, I'm sorry, bro.
No, go ahead.
But it was funny because when we went there, like we knew about slavery, and we knew that it happened years ago, but we had thought it was abolished by now, right? But when we got there, we saw things that was kind of like a head scratch, because it was like, why are they still living this way? Because back home, it's completely different. That's what I thought. But when I got to Africa, I'm like, man, I love it here. I learned so much. There's so many resources there, so many people, and they all opened us, like they open arms. They had open arms to 120 men of color, and they just loved us. They showed us that we had a home away from home. It was really away from home, far.
So for me, I was a bit ignorant towards Africa in general. So I was like, oh, we're going to Africa. I didn't really keep in mind it was South Africa. So it was just like, in general, it was just like, Africa, it's going to be hot. I'm going to be sweating. It's going to be dirty. There's going to be nothing we can eat. And, you know, I was just like, man, I really don't want to do that. Like, I'm not trying to live that lifestyle. You know, that was just me being ignorant towards the culture. And, you know, I started reading up on it, and I started, like he said, learning about the apartheid. And then once we actually got to visit, it was like a smack in the face, like, I was completely wrong. Like these people, despite being oppressed, they were very happy and, not even full of revenge. And that's something that really surprised me because I felt that if I was them, I would hold the biggest grudge against all the people who were trying to oppress them, and they're still oppressing them today. And so, I felt that was the biggest lesson I learned, is like learning how to forgive and not hold hate in your heart, because that can really just drive you insane and not take you anywhere.
So bringing it back home, can you share with us your views, your experiences? We know that experiences for young men of color today, the statistics are pretty dreadful when it comes to unemployment, when it comes to incarceration, when it comes to graduation rates, in particular for young men of color. And between Latinos and African Americans, it shifts depending on which category we're talking about. But ultimately, young men of color at the bottom of the barrel in all these categories. Why do you think that is? And what do you think the solution to those problems are?
You want to take this?
So why I think that exists is because I feel like there's this stigma that we tend to create in different societies, especially in Chicago. Like, unfortunately, we say like we're the most diverse because you see different types of people, but if you go driving down different neighborhoods, you can tell they're very segregated. And I feel like that those little things like that create an us versus them atmosphere, where it's like, let's hang out with our people and they hang out with them, and now we're just competing. And I feel like once we learn how to integrate ourselves and learn how to thrive off of one another and learn off of one another, then that's when we really start doing a lot more good than bad. And for a solution, for a solution, I don't think it's just like pouring money into our low-income communities, because that doesn't really do anything. You need to provide resources. And that's what kind of like TFI did for us. Like, they gave us the tools, but they also taught us how to apply them. So it wasn't just like, here's everything, the information you need to get to college and that's it. It was, no, now you got to do the work.
Can I add? I also want to say that a lot of people judge us, but they don't really know us. They looking from the outside. Take a step inside our communities, and you can see why we are viewed this way, you get me? But they don't really take the time to really know the young men of color. Because a young man of color have dreams also. Everybody dream. We all had dreams, 120 dreams, and it took us to wake up to realize that our dreams are right there in front of us. A lot of people sleep, but don't nothing come to a sleeper but a dream. So when we woke up and took the steps to join TFI, we took the time to make a difference in our community. I can honestly say, now that I'm a part of TFI, I have something more. Well, I'm a graduate now, but I'm still a part of TFI. But now I'm not that statistic no more. I'm making a difference. I'm not just being what they say that they say I am. You get me? Like, I'm not that. And so when I look on the news and I see another young black man killed another young black man, I'll be like, wow, he could have been something. That was somebody's son. That was another dream you killed. And every day, me and my brothers wake up and make a difference. I feel that that death is not going in vain. That we are helping that death make something. We are helping that person make his dream come true. Thank you.
So I believe our time is up, and what a great way to end it. And by the way, Diontae was our keynote speaker for our fellowship initiative's graduation last Thursday, and you could see why. And I'll just add for Brendan, Brendan is actually a Posse scholar and is going to Oberlin College this fall. Thank you. On a full ride scholarship. And Diontae is going to Western Illinois. So these are very, very successful young men. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, guys.